So today we will start with developmental biology. It's a very important point, important section. So uh, in developmental biology, we have to study about certain basic terms today. So that terms will study first, and then we'll go to oogenesis, spermatogenesis, and then development in frog, chick, and all we have to study. Okay, so those basic terms are very important. Otherwise, whenever we are using those terms, we will not understand what it actually means. Okay, so developmental biology, we all know it is the study of process by which an organism grow and how it develops. So that is by developmental biology. And when you say develop or when you say it grows, it just not only grows in size or it just increases its cells. It is not that all about. There is a very complicated mechanism of genetic control, isn't it? So when it actually the developmental biology portions deals with how the cell growth or its differentiation, how the organs are formed, how the morphogenesis is happening, morphogenesis, how the morphogenetically whatever you see outside, how those organs, how those anatomical features are formed in an organism, and how it is genetically controlled. So that is a complicated process, and that is what developmental biology is dealing with. And so there is a term called embryogenesis. So what is embryogenesis? How the embryo is formed and how it is developed from a fertilized egg. So you have a sperm, you have an egg, and then it is combining together to form the zygote, and then it forms an embryo. And from that embryo, how it is developing throughout its developmental process, throughout the process, what and all changes are happening to that particular embryo. That is what embryogenesis is dealing with. And then there is a term development. So what is development? There is a single cell which is formed after the fertilization. That cell is zygote, and by the process by which this zygote, that is a single cell, how it becomes a multicellular organism. Okay, so how it is developing into a multicellular organism is all about development. And then there is a term called epigenesis. So what is epigenesis? This gradual process of development from zygote to the basic morphogenetic anatomical features of an organism. This gradual developmental strategy, the process is known as epigenesis. So as we were discussing, it's not just increasing, one cell is increasing in its size or one cell is dividing into many cells. So one cell, when it divides into two, all the components are going into the next cell also, isn't it? So identical two cells are formed, and then it becomes identical next 4 cells, and then 8 cells, and then 16 cells. Like this it is dividing. But the thing is that if all the cells are identical, what is the point? So they have to some way get differentiated. So not only the cells has to increase in size, it has to divide divide and increase its number, but also it has to get differentiated, so that from a single zygote, which is undifferentiated, you can say, isn't it? That cell is undifferentiated. Its fate is not known. From that single undifferentiated zygotic cell, how different varieties of differentiated, diversified cell types are formed, and then how those cells are organized to form a pattern, to form a particular structure, whether it is kidney, whether it is liver, whether it is any internal muscles or whatever it is. Okay, any internal group of cells or tissues and then organs. So that is the way it develops, isn't it? Some cells, first cell will be formed, and then a group of cells will form the tissue, and then tissues together, it will form the organ, and then it forms the organ system, and then it forms, when that organ systems are combined together and it gives a particular anatomy or a particular morphology, then it becomes the particular individual, you can say. So these 5 major processes are involved in the process of development of an organism. It increases in its size, which is known as growth. It increases in its number by cell division. It diversifies into different cell types by differentiation. And then they all organize to form a particular pattern, or particular anatomy, whatever you can say, particular organ, or whatever you can say. Okay, and then they form particular shape and structure, and it gives the morphology to that particular organism. So that are the 5 different processes: growth, cell division, differentiation, pattern formation, and morphogenesis. Okay, so what is happening? Adult will be there, then it produces the gametes fuse together to form the zygote, isn't it? And then zygote, it grows, it cell divides, differentiate, pattern formation, and morphogenesis. These are the 5 different steps, and then all together you get an adult individual, and then again it forms the gamete. So this is the process, which all are overlapping. You cannot say when it is in different organisms, it is happening in different times, isn't it? And then now we have a very important term which is known as potency. Cell's potency. What is potency? What is its potential? That is what potency is all about. Cell's potency. That is ability, potential. What is its ability to differentiate into other cell types? That is what cell potency means. One cell in the ability to differentiate into other cells. Our ability, our potential potency. So cell potency refers to its varying ability of a stem cell to differentiate into specialized cell types. Okay, so there is an undifferentiated or unspecialized cell, isn't it? So, one unspecialized cell in a specialized differentiate either specialized cells in a cell type mara. Adinalla ability. So, if I say this cell is having, this is a highly, this cell is having a greater potency, or I'm saying this cell is having a high potency, means it can differentiate into many other type of cells. If I say the cell is having a very limited potency, or it is having very low potency, means it can form only a very few type of cells. It can be differentiated into very few different type of cells. So that is what potency is all about. And this potency is like, you can say it is an intrinsic property. It is the intrinsic property of that particular cell, and it can be either greater or it can be equal to the fate. That I will explain later. What is its fate? Fate means what it is going to happen. One cell under a cell naale liver cell avanalladana. Kore liver cell ഒരു സെല്ലിൽ നിന്ന് ഡിവൈഡ് ചെയ്ത് ആ സെല്ലിന് ഒരു ഫേറ്റ് ഉണ്ട് അല്ലെ. എന്താണ് അതിന്റെ അൾട്ടിമേറ്റ് ഫേറ്റ്? What is its ultimately determined to become? Okay, അപ്പൊ ഒരു സെല്ല് എടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ആ സെല്ലിന്റെ അൾട്ടിമേറ്റ് ഫേറ്റ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അൾട്ടിമേറ്റ് എയിം ഓർ ഡിറ്റർമിൻഡ് ഇസ് ടു ഫോം എ ലിവർ സെൽ എന്ന് വിചാരിക്കും. But this cell can have, now in next few slides we can see, this cell can be, when it is in an undifferentiated state, it can have other potencies also. If it is removed and kept in other places, in between the muscle cells, sometimes what will happen, influence of those muscle cells around it can make this particular cell to become a muscle cell also. So either it can have an equal potency, that is, that cell is destined to, or that cell's ultimate fate is to become a liver cell. So it will become a liver cell only, or it have a higher potency or higher, greater fate. Why it is having a greater fate? Sometimes if it is kept in another group, it is transferred to a place where surroundingly you can see certain muscle cells or something, or whatever cells it is, surrounding cells in the influence only, it can become what? It can become the just like the surrounding cells. If the surrounding cells are muscle cells, it can become a muscle cell. Appo endai aine rendu potency alle, its original potency is to become the liver cell. It's having a greater potency so that it can also become a kind of muscle cell. That's equal or greater fate or potency. So that potency is an intrinsic property and it depends upon its intrinsic property or its potency, what I am destined to become, and then its environment where it is kept in the embryo. If one cell is removed from a particular place and it is kept in another place, surroundings environment is making a certain influence on it, and it can become another cell. So that environment also matters. And zygote, when you say zygote, is considered to be a totipotent cell. What is totipotent cell? Total potential. From that single zygote, the entire organism with so many differentiated cells are formed. It is having a whole potency. It is having a total potency. That is what totipotent means. Okay, from that word itself, you can say. So from that egg cell and sperm cells which fuses and gives a zygote, it is capable of forming the entire human body, isn't it? So it is called the totipotent cell. So zygote is a totipotent cell. Now we have to see different type of potencies. The first one is totipotency, then pluripotency, multipotency, oligopotency, and unipotency. From the name, it is very, very clear, isn't it? Zygote is a totipotent cell. That is a total potential. It is having a total potentiality. It can become any type of cell. It can form a whole body. So examples are like spores or zygotes. So those single cells, they are differentiated into the entire different type of cells which is seen in the body of the organism. So those cells are said to be totipotent cells. So that is totipotency. Now you have pluripotency. So it refers to you have certain undifferentiated stem cell. From that, it can form three different germ layers. Endoderm, what are those germ layers? Ectoderm, endoderm, and in between the mesoderm. From the ectoderm, you can see it forms the ectoderm, whatever is seen in the outside. So the epidermal tissues, and then the nervous system, the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. All these are formed from the ectoderm. And from the mesoderm, what and all are formed? Muscles, bones, blood, urinogenital system. So all these are formed from the mesoderm. And then you have the interior endoderm, which forms the gastrointestinal tracts and then lungs and then stomach lining. So whatever is seen in the interior of all these things, those are from the endoderm. So when a undifferentiated stem cell gives rise to these three different type of germ layers, and then from that, all these muscles, bones, urinogenital system, epidermal tissues, all these are formed, then it is called pluripotency. So what is the difference in totipotency and pluripotency? Totipotent cells can give rise to both the placenta and embryo. Appo placentയും embryo ഒക്കെ അതും കൂടെ totipotency potential cells-നെ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പറ്റും. Pluripotential cells-ന് ഒരു embryological development-ലുള്ള ബാക്കിയുള്ള cells-നെ മാത്രമേ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. So in a pluripotent cell, if a cell is said to be a pluripotent, it cannot form the placenta. Okay, it cannot as such form the embryo. What it can form? Pluripotent cell can form other and germ layers. Okay, so it can form the germ layers only. Cannot form the placenta. It cannot form the embryo. So that is why it is that cell is said to be pluripotent, not totipotent. So totipotent എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എല്ലാം ഫോം ചെയ്യാം. ആ എംബ്രിയോ ആയിട്ട് റിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് എല്ലാം. ഇപ്പൊ പ്ലാസന്റെ എംബ്രിയോ അതിൽ. Okay, so that is the major difference between pluripotent and totipotent cells. So these SSS, all these are stem cells, and you can, from the stem cells, it can form X. X means one type of cell, Y it can form. So many. So each stem cell can differentiate either into X or into Y or into Z. So any type of cells can be formed. Okay, so that is why it is called pluripotency. Okay. So then multipotency. So in multipotency, what does it mean is that In a multipotent cell, let us consider blood stem cell. It cannot form a nervous cell because it is a multipotent blood stem cell. So it can form the blood cells, not the nervous system, neurons. Okay, so different type of blood cells can be formed. So its potency is multi. Different type of blood cells can be formed, but not the nervous cells or not the neurons, not the muscle cells. So that is why it is called multipotency. So example, it can give differentiate into discrete cell types. If it is a kind of what you can say neurological stem cell neurons related, any type of neurons can be formed from that particular stem cell, but not the blood cells. So that is multipotency. And you have the oligopotency. So it can differentiate into few cell types. Its degree of potency is little bit limited. Appo oligopotent stem cells, lymphoid cells, appo lymphoid allengil myeloid stem cells. So lymphoid related cells, some of the lymphoid related cells can be formed from this lymphoid stem cell. Myeloid stem cells. Okay, so muscle related, some of the cells can be formed from myeloid stem cells. So that kind of potency, its degree of potency is little bit less than multipotency. So that is oligopotency. So it can form only few cell types. Then you have unipotency. It can only form one type of cell, like uni. So a true unipotent stem cell does not exist. That is, as we were discussing most of the time, when a particular cell, if we say it is unipotent and we take it out and we keep it with other cells, due to the surrounding environment, most of the cases they differentiate because those cells communicate with each other. You have studied cell communication, isn't it? You're there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Cell communication, when those cells communicate with each other, so certain chemicals are released, certain proteins are released, they are accepted, and then they are taken inside. So all these processes are happening, and then this unipotent cell can, get converted into kind of different cell. So unipotent, it does like I will become only muscle cells, or I will become only neurons. So that kind of cells are, it's not clear whether they are existing or not because of the cell communication. Okay, so this is 5 different type of cell potency and 5 different type of cell potency: totipotent, pluripotent, multi, oligo, and unipotency. Okay, so this is what totipotent embryonic stem cell is there. So it can become any type of cell. So then it will become the so that is kind of zygote, you can say, isn't it? So this is formed by, so zygote, what and all it contains, you remember it as a blastocyst. Then this blastocyst will form blastula, you call it, isn't it? Remember that name, blastula. Then it forms the gastrula. And then gastrulation, that process is happening, and then it will form the neural canal, and then it slowly divides and form different type of organs. So that is what the same, whatever we have discussed, same thing, only 2-3 pictures are there. You can just see from the ectoderm, neurons and epithelial cells are formed, how it is looking like, just to remember that. Okay, and then you can see the mesoderm. From that, the blood cells, muscle cells, all these are formed. Then you have the endoderm, the inner lining of the gastrointestinal tract, and then the liver cells, all these are formed from the endoderm. So that's all the same thing only. Okay. This is also from the ectoderm, what and all are formed. So this you have to remember, you study this very well. Blastula, what is blastula? The zygote only. From that single cell, it forms the 2-cell stage, it forms, and then 4-cell stage, then 8-cell stage, then 16, isn't it? So that kind of division, blastula. So when the cells are arranged, you can see the cells are arranged like this, isn't it? So So these arrangement of cells in this condition it is known as blastocyst, or you can say the blastula. So in blastula, you have the ectoderm, you have the endoderm, and then in between mesoderm. From the ectoderm, epidermis, neural plate, and neural crust. So these together form the nervous system. So central nervous system is formed from the neural plate. Remember, neural crust, it forms the peripheral nervous system. Okay. And then in the peripheral nervous system, you can see the, then see, this is why they are kind of interrelated or overlap many times. Okay. Then in the case of mesoderm, it forms the dorsoventral, dorsal mesoderm and ventrolateral mesoderm. From the ventrolateral, whatever organs are on the ventral side in the case of most of the vertebrates, isn't it? നമ്മുടെ ബോഡിയിലാണെങ്കിലും വെൻട്രൽ സൈഡിലുള്ള ഓർഗൻസ്, വെൻട്രോലാറ്ററൽ സൈഡിലുള്ള ഓർഗൻസ്, ലൈക്ക് what are all in our ventral side? You can see the kidneys, heart, then limbs, and then blood vessels. Also, all these things are formed. Over the dorsal side, we have the notochord, isn't it? So from the dorsal mesoderm, it forms the notochord and somites. So in somites, which actually forms the cartilages, bones, and muscles, and outside dermis for those. So dorsal mesoderm gives rise to, so mesoderm gives rise to, very generally if you see, mesoderm എന്നാണ് നമ്മുടെ മസിൽസും ബോൺസും ഉണ്ടാവുന്നത് അല്ലേ. അപ്പൊ ആ മീസോഡേമിൽ നിന്ന് മസിൽസ് ഉണ്ടാവുമ്പോൾ ഡോസോ മീസോഡേം ആൻഡ് വെൻട്രോലാറ്ററൽ മീസോഡേം അങ്ങനെ രണ്ടായിട്ട് ഡിവൈഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഡോസൽ മീസോഡേമിൽ നിന്ന് വി ഗെറ്റ് ദി സോമൈറ്റ്സ് വിച്ച് ഫോം ദി മസിൽസ്, ഡെർമിസ് ആൻഡ് കാർട്ടിലേജ് ആൻഡ് ബോൺസ്. And dorsal mesoderm also gives rise to notochord. So that is in the dorsal side for almost all the vertebrates. And then in the case of ventrolateral mesoderm, it forms the kidneys, heart, blood vessels, visceral mesoderm, viscera, whatever is there in the intestine, those visceras, it will be formed. And then in the endoderm, all these viscera, whichever is having their interior lining, so gut lining, all these things are formed from the endoderm. Okay. So this also you have to remember. And then in the case of flowering plants, if you see, you call it a pro-embryo. Okay. So it is a pro-embryo which is formed. This is the hierarchy. Same thing only. Before epidermis and all, we call it as protoderm, ground meristem, and procambium. This you just remember it. That's all. Epidermis, protoderm gives rise to the epidermis, and then ground meristem gives rise to the cortex and subepidermis. So whatever is in the outside, that is epidermis, which is arising from the protoderm. And then you have the meristem, which is in the middle. Okay, so protoderm, ground meristem, and procambium. Cambium is the deepest part, inside part. Whatever is seen inside. But when you take a wood piece, you can see the pith inside. When you take a cut wood, you can see a darker round in the middle. So that portion is called pith, isn't it? So that pith is the deepest part which is formed from the cambium. So procambium is the inner kind of endoderm, equivalent to our endoderm. So that is procambium, from which the pith is formed. And then surrounding endodermis, pithine surround ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ള live ആയിട്ടുള്ള. When you see the pith, it is a dead portion. Okay, ഒരു വുഡിന്റെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു വുഡിന്റെ പീസ് എടുത്ത്, pith means that is the dead cell. So surrounding that you can see the endodermis and vascular tissue which is having life in it. So those cells are surrounding the pith. So those immediate surrounding of the pith, the endodermis, the vascular tissue, the pericycle, so all these cells are formed from the procambium. And then you have the in between the epidermis and between the pith vascular tissue and this endodermis, you have the mesoderm kinds thing. So that is known as, in the case of plants, it's called flowering plants, it's called ground meristem, which gives rise to the cortex and subepidermis. So you have the epidermis outside, inside subepidermis. Then you can see the cortex. In just below the cortex, you can see the vascular tissue and pericycle, endodermis, and pith. So this is the organization, how the ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm, which is in the case of flowering plants, protoderm, ground meristem and procambium, how it is hierarchied, how it is kept. Okay. And then now I told these cells are having a potency. So it can become any type of cell. Some of them can become the muscle cells, some of them can become the nerve cells, isn't it? So those cells are committed. So what is commitment? Commitment is the fate or the capacity to differentiate into particular kind of cell. So when you take a cell, its commitment is to become the nerve cell. When you take another cell, its commitment is to become a muscle cell. So that is commitment, fate and their capacity to differentiate into a particular kind of cell. Okay, so that is commitment. And how it is how this commitment is happening? When you see a single celled zygote, it is having only one cell. And how it is committed to become, then it divides, and how each cells are committed to become a particular cell. For that, they need certain signals, isn't it? ഒരു സെല്ലിന് ഒരു സിഗ്നൽ കൊടുക്കണം. ആ സിഗ്നൽ ഒരു how all these cells are giving signals through the proteins. So when it is an uncommitted cell, when it is a zygote, it is said to be naive. NAIV, it is said to be naive. So that means it is uncommitted cell. It has not received any instruction yet. It is a single zygote. Now it is dividing. And when it divides, each cell during their developmental pathway is getting certain signals in the form of proteins, in the form of mRNA, in the form of transcription factors, TF. So as these cells receive all these things, and then it becomes specified. Okay, and then it becomes differentiated, and thus its commitment is complete. It reaches its fate. Okay, അപ്പോൾ ആദ്യം തന്നെ ഒരു സിംഗിൾ സെൽഡ് സ്റ്റേജിൽ അതിനൊരു അൺകമ്മിറ്റ്മെന്റ് സെല്ലാന്ന് പറയാം, ഇറ്റ്സ് നീവ്. Then it receives certain signals. So these signals can be due by cytoplasmic determinants or by induction. So normally the cell is naive, zygote. It is undifferentiated. It has not got any commitment, uncommitted cell. And then then the zygote divides, and then there are certain cytoplasmic determinants. What are cytoplasmic determinants? Name itself shows there are certain determinants in the cytoplasm. So that are cytoplasmic determinants. So those determinants, cytoplasmic determinants, determines, and then it becomes specified. When it is becoming specified also, specify ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ളൂ, ഡിറ്റർമിൻഡ് ആയിട്ടില്ല. സോ സ്പെസിഫൈഡ് സെല്ലിനെ നമ്മൾ വേറെ എവിടേക്കെങ്കിലും മാറ്റി വെച്ചാൽ, ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ എവിടേക്കെങ്കിലും മാറ്റി വെച്ചാൽ ചുറ്റുമുള്ള സെൽസിന്റെ ഒക്കെ ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസ് കൊണ്ട് അതിന് വേറെ സെല്ലായി മാറാം. But once it is determined that I am going to become a nerve cell, then this becomes irreversible. Its fate is irreversible when it is determined. And then it undergoes differentiation and forms a particular cell. Genes express ആയിട്ട് ആ ജീൻസ് ഒക്കെ എക്സ്പ്രസ് ചെയ്ത് പിന്നെ അതിനെ മാറ്റാൻ പറ്റില്ല. So now in that determined stage, that its fate is kind of irreversible, മാറ്റാൻ പറ്റില്ല. സ്പെസിഫൈഡ് കണ്ടീഷനിൽ റിവേഴ്സിബിൾ ആ. ഞാൻ എവിടേക്കാ പോണേന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ അതിനനുസരിച്ച് ഐ ക്യാൻ റീമോഡൽ മൈ സെൽഫ്. അങ്ങനെയാണ് ആ സെൽസ് പോവാ സ്പെസിഫൈഡ്. So this is the commitment. Okay, so once the fate of the cell is said to be specified, the cell is directed to follow a certain developmental pathway and does so when placed in isolation. അതായത് സ്പെസിഫൈഡ് ആയി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ when those cells are in isolation, അതാണ് നോക്കേണ്ടത്. ഇപ്പൊ ഞാനൊരു നെർവ് സെൽസ് ഒരു സെല്ലിനെ എടുത്തു, അതിന്റെ സ്പെസിഫൈഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളത് നെർവ് സെൽസ് ആവാനാണ്. വെൻ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഇൻ ഐസൊലേഷൻ, ഒറ്റയ്ക്ക് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ബിക്കം വാട്ട്? Nerve cell. It will become the nerve cell. because its destiny or its commitment, it's specified to become the nerve cell. It is in the neutral environment, it is in isolation, there is nothing. So in this stage, its fate is reversible, because when it is placed in a different environment, it can be forming another type of cell. Clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Then when it is determined, the fate of the cell is said to be determined, it cannot be changed regardless of the cell's environment. Whatever be the outside cell, doesn't matter. Its fate, its commitment is irreversible, because it is determined to become that cell. So it will form that developmental pathway only. Okay. So that is what commitment means. So now, how this commitment happens? What is the mechanism of this developmental commitment? So there are two major strategies to establish the commitment, and then later on becoming the cell differentiation. So what are those strategies? First is cytoplasmic determinants, and then induction, the inheritance of cytoplasmic determinants, and the second one is a perception of external inductive signal. So second one is induction. First one is cytoplasmic determinants.